What is happening, everybody? Welcome to Masters Wednesday. I am Jason Rouslin, the host of this short-form podcast, the third and final part of the Awesemo Golf Weekly podcast series, the Against the Grain pod. And what I do here is I go over the expected ownership and pivot plays off of that ownership for the DraftKings, big DraftKings GPP contest. This is weekly. I'm talking generalizing. This week, of course, it is the Millionaire Maker. We've got two of them. My focus is going to be on the $20 one, the bankroll for most people that will be playing this week. Of course, if you're a high roller or just want to live once like me this week, you can play in the $4,500 one as well. But there's only 500 entrants, so not really much to talk about ownership. What ends up happening, which I'll go into a little bit when I'm talking about this, is the chalk becomes chalkier and the pivots become more pivoty, if that makes sense. If pivoty is a word, then I just made it up. If it's not a word, then I just made it up. If it is a word, great. Then I don't look as bad as I do now. So we're going to march on. We're going to go into, like I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, the visual portion of this. Of course, if you're listening to it on your favorite podcast provider, I thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Don't worry, nothing changes. I'm not going to say, hey, look at the screen or anything like that. No, it's just to add a visual component to it. So also, to add to the level of excitement for me this week, I guess there's a hurricane coming to Tampa in the next couple of days. And as most of you know, and if you don't, that's where I reside. So better not knock out power because, listen, I got, 24, 48, 72, 108, something like that. 96, sorry, not 72, 96. I don't know where I got that. 96 hours of golf to watch. You know, I feel like it's on 24 hours. Maybe it's not 24. Maybe it's like 12 hours a day, something like that. So I better not lose power or else I'm driving to Rhode Island or something like that to watch the Masters this week. So, all right, enough of my rambling. Let's jump into my PowerPoint here. Of course, this week's tournament is the Masters. And before we get kicking in the Against the Grain pod, I want to let everybody know, of course, about the Awesemo promo we've got going on. It's the Masters promo. You're going to use the promo code Augusta. You're going to get 50% off the Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass. It's going to give you basically the price of NFL Weekly, and in addition to NFL Weekly, you're going to get, of course, all of my Masters content, all of Awesemo's Masters content, and of course, Ben Raza's premium stuff as well, including all of our LOL sports, not LOL sports, esports, I'm sorry. It is LOL is an esport. Esports, soccer, MMA, everything we've got going on, you're going to get all of that by using promo code Augusta at 50% off. One of the things that you're going to get with it is the full field ownership projections from Awesemo. But as I start off every single Against the Grain pod, I give you the top 10. So let's go over the top 10 this week. Dustin Johnson coming in at 32%. His salary, $10,000. $1,000 more than he was at the PGA Championship, but still the lowest price out of any of the golfers above 10 at or above 10K. So many of the field is starting with him as he looks to be in some of the best form he's been in his life. And he has 4 straight top 10s here at Augusta. So obviously many people going to it. Hideki Matsuyama, he hasn't missed a cut here at Augusta in at least 5 years. And he's coming in off of great form. He's going to come in at 27% owned. According to Awesemo, Xander, 27%. As well, Jason Kokrak, 25%. John Rahm, 22%. Rory McIlroy, 19. Tony Finau, 19. Webb Simpson, 19. Matthew Fitzpatrick, 17. And Cameron Smith, 16 to wind down the top 10 projected this week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on the screen and tell you a little bit about the article, Against the Grain article that I write for Awesemo.com. That is, of course, live and free now. Go to Awesemo.com/PGA, and it should be right there in front of you. And what I did here is I previewed the Millionaire Maker contest and gave you the last 9 winning lineups from majors, that is. We had a couple of weeks, of course, when we had just come back from COVID, and golf was the only game in town where they were giving a Millionaire Maker to us basically every week. What I did was I just took the majors because that's more maybe even indicative of what we're going to see this week. Gave you those, gave you some stats about them. So I'll just give you a couple of statistics from the article in terms of players in the lineup. So the number of golfers priced above 10,000. So it's we're looking at 54 total golfers, 9 lineups times 6 per lineup. I hope my math is correct today. Geez, earlier I was trying to do 72 plus 24 and came up with 108, so maybe it's not that great. Anyways, number of golfers priced above 10K, there's been 7. Number of golfers priced in the 9K range has been 8. In the 8K range, 14. In the 7K range, 17. And number of golfers priced in the 6K range, 8. However, this year, each of the lineups had at least one golfer priced under 7,000. So maybe a little bit more stars and scrubs than what we're used to. Also, an interesting note, the breakdown of how the lineup ended was a guy priced in the low 10s, a guy priced in the 9s, and a guy priced in the 8s with 2 7s. So actually a more balanced build has proved to be effective this year in winning the Millionaire Maker. Of course, for the U.S. Open, I think it's important to bring up, though, that was a $100 buy-in. So the entries were a fifth of what they are this week. And actually, a 5 of 6 ended up winning it. As you can see, if you go to my article, I show you the lineup. Matt Fitzpatrick ended up missing the cut and was in it. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on here to the top 10 price golfers, or it's really 9,500 and above. This week it's only 9 golfers. And I just mentioned a lot of these guys, almost every single one of these guys I just mentioned, except for the bottom 3 there, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay, and Collin Morikawa. So, actually, I didn't mention Justin Thomas. Awesemo, as I'll just slide back up there. Justin Thomas is projected to be out of the top 10% owned, somewhere right around 15% by Awesemo. I'm a little higher at 19%, as I think people will gravitate towards him when they think the ownership is going to be lower, but relatively even spread up here, up at the top. I'm not going to lie. I think Jon Rahm ends up becoming higher. In fact, before I come out of this, or in my model, which you, of course, can get as an Awesemo Plus member, I should say. I update this every single night, so I'll probably have Jon Rahm a bit higher. Okay, moving on. Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson, I suspect, will be the top 2 owned up here, along with Jon Rahm and Xander Schauffele. Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay, and Collin Morikawa, though, certainly will be the low-owned pivots here. And Collin Morikawa, he could even be below 10% if you're looking for a below 10% golfer. Morikawa is going to be it this week. It's his first time here. He's not in great form, and his price is still high. So that's kind of a perfect storm to have a bit of an ownership dip here this week. Okay, before we move on to our middle tier section, don't forget to smash that like button for me, of course, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, of course, and in your favorite podcast provider as well, so you know when these go live. You'll be able to listen to them at your leisure and hopefully be available to you right away. So, okay, let's move on to our middle tier here. And it's going to start off, no doubt, with Hideki Matsuyama and Tony Finau. Undoubtedly, there's no question about it. Webb Simpson will be number 3. I think what will be interesting is the next batch of golfers. Matt Fitzpatrick is in there at 7,600. So this middle tier, what it goes from is 9,400 down to 7,500, covering about 20 or so golfers, just over 220% total ownership. So a lot of ownership coming. In the top, it was 9 golfers and 160%, so almost an average of 20 there as well. So obviously a very top-heavy event, which is no surprise. So in that middle tier section with Matt Fitzpatrick, I expect Scotty Scheffler, who led the field in strokes gained off the tee last week, I expect him to be relatively popular, as well as Patrick Reed, Ty Hatton, Adam Scott, Louis Oosthuizen, Jason Day, and Justin Rose. I expect all of those guys to be between 10 and 15%, maybe a little bit more heavy on Scotty Scheffler and Adam Scott and Louis Oosthuizen. But Jason Day, I think, is interesting. I think he ends up trending much higher than the 10% I have him projected. I think he's the one big mover here, as coming in at 8,400 and has been in a golf tournament twice to win it in the last month or so. One time he had to withdraw, and then, of course, last week he didn't play that good on Sunday at the Houston Open. But for all intents and purposes, Jason Day certainly is trending in the right direction, and, of course, has had a couple of chances to win here at Augusta. So I expect that 10%, him to be the big mover, somewhere around the 15 to 20% range. Justin Rose, I think, is interesting. The guy keeps on scoring even though he doesn't finish. So I think, given his track record here as well, I expect him to be 10 to 15%. Because I match him up with Bubba Watson. It's interesting that they're right next to each other on the ownership projections for me. Because Bubba Watson's at 9,000, and he's coming in certainly with better form than Justin Rose. I see them as similar golfers in their career, and, of course, Bubba is 1,300 more. I think that's going to bring ownership down. I think he'll be below at 10%. Continue on in this section, I think Ricky Fowler, Sungjae Im, Matthew Wolff, and even defending champion Tiger Woods, I suspect they'll all be below 10%, somewhere in that 7 to 10% range. Certainly an opportunity to get a bunch of leverage there. And then you're going to have 4 golfers priced between 9,400 and 7,500 that will be at or below 5% this week, at least by my projection. Paul Casey, Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, and Phil Mickelson. Neither of them are playing good right now. I mean, Phil, of course, has those 2 wins on the Champions Tour, but hasn't even sniffed the top 20 on the PGA Tour in a while. A couple of missed cuts in there as well. And Tommy Fleetwood, all he's done on the PGA Tour when he's played here is putt. He hasn't hit his irons well. He hasn't hit his tee ball well. His around the green is okay. So, obviously, coming to Augusta, it's not a place you want to find your ball striking, but, of course, driving down Magnolia Lane can give anybody and everybody the feels. So, certainly wouldn't write Tommy Fleetwood off this week, but definitely a stretch given his recent form. The only guy I didn't mention is Sung J M. I suspect he'll probably be below 10% this week coming in. Just form doesn't look great, and it might be his first time here. I'll have to verify that But regardless, Sung J M definitely going to be below 10% owned this week. It's interesting because Scotty Scheffler, I talk about those two in the same breath quite a bit. But it is Sung J M's first appearance here. I apologize. But it looks like the appetite for Scotty Scheffler is growing, where the appetite for Sung J is lessening. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that one as we march forward. Okay, our last section here, the bottom tier, still plenty of golfers. I mean, we had about 29 or 30 in the top 2, so that leaves 90 plus in the field. So around 60 golfers or more here. Again, over 200% ownership. No surprise, I have Jason Kokrak projected as the highest, as did below this 7,400 mark at 14%. I have Cam Smith number 2. Again, same as Awesemo. I have Cam Smith projected more towards 10%, and Kokrak a little bit down towards 15%. Again, I believe in higher dollars, those numbers are much higher. But this is where I have it going. Still plenty of golfers that I think are going to get around 10% or at least above 7%. That's the mark I'm going to give you for this next handful. Cameron Smith, Eric Van Rooyen, J.T. Poston, salary thing there with Poston, Cam Champ, Shane Lowry, Ian Poulter, Abraham Answer, Lanto Griffin, and Zach Johnson. When I ran out the optimals, I got a ton of Cam Smith and Jason Kokrak in this range, so no surprise to see those guys lead it. A couple of other guys that I think are going to garnish between 5 and 7% owned this week. Corey Connors, he seems to be in a pretty good form. Siwoo Kim, he's coming in at around 6%. Billy Horschel, around that 5% mark. Sebastian Munoz playing well, 5%. Kevin Kisner, he's been touted by a couple of people, including Ben Razza, who I'll be doing my Live Before Lock show tonight with, of course, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kevin Kisner, coming around 5%. Francesco Molinari. How about touting Francesco Molinari? I might be the champion of this horse this week. He's coming in around 5 to 10% owned. His odds have dropped significantly. They've now about 100 to 1 to win, which is the same price as you're getting somebody like a Kevin Kisner, who is $400 more expensive. So definitely am interested in Molinari. There's still a couple of people that I think will get around 5%. Lucas Glover, Charles Howell, Adam Hadwin. Matt Kuchar, I suspect Matt Kuchar's got to get over 5%, right? I mean, the projections aren't showing such because no one's wanted to play him recently, but given the namesake of him and the perceived value, given the fact that he's made the cut in each of the years here in the last 5, I suspect Kuchar will be more towards 10% owned. Lee Westwood, he's another guy that hasn't played here in a couple of years, coming off of a missed cut, but his odds to win are lower than most people in this range. So I think he probably comes more towards the 5 to 10% range rather than the 3% high of projected. Same kind of goes for Henrik Stenson, actually, as well, who's way out of form. But given the fact that he's $6,800 and a former major winner, I suspect he'll probably be more towards 5% owned. Guys that won't be 5% owned this week: Bernd Wiesberger, Rafa Cabrera-Bello, Brendan Todd, Kevin Na, Andrew Landry, Byung-Han An, Max Homa. I got a couple more here, too, that I'll throw at you. Of course, all of the amateurs and older previous Masters champion. I expect most of those guys to go way under 5% owned. Others, though: Danny Willett, another Masters champion, Victor Perez, Ches Reavie, Dylan Fratelli, Tyler Duncan, and interestingly enough, certainly the lowest ranked golfer here in this field, or two of them, I should say. The two lowest ranked golfers in this price section in terms of OWGR are Mark Leishman and Gary Woodland. Both are going to be about 2% owned this week. Gary Woodland is coming in here. He's lost what looks like 100 pounds. He's almost unrecognizable at this point. There's a picture floating around of him, Ricky, and a couple of other guys. He literally looks unrecognizable. I think it's affected his golf game and certainly has created a bunch of injury problems for him. So I am out on Gary Woodland, and no surprise, most of the field did as well. And Mark Leishman still has not recovered his form from a while. So that's it's tough to back him. So, even though they are the lowest rated golfers, I certainly understand why nobody wants to play them. So, okay, that will do it here for the Against the Grain pod. Of course, if you're looking for more content, this is certainly the most content that I have put out in my PGA DFS content-making career this week. I just put out my top 50 bets for Augusta. I love the fact that we have legalized betting in most places, not in Florida quite yet, at least not through DraftKings and FanDuel and PointsBet and BetMGM, which, of course, you can find all of those lines on OddsShopper. So if you're looking to, bet to win somebody like Patrick Cantlay, you're going to get the best odds by using OddsShopper. Of course, you can find that tool by going to Awesemo.com. There's a banner across where it has all of the different elements we have at Awesemo. And, of course, click the OddsShopper, and it'll bring you in there to the great tool that we have. Check that out, of course, too. So until tonight, 8:30, I will bow out here. But, of course, if you haven't seen my other videos, my model breakdown or my 3-ball betting video, which I'll take some of the bets from my top 50 bets article and put them in there, and a couple of other ones as well, then check that out. And until, if you've already seen those, then great. We will see you at 8:30 for Live Before Lock with Ben Raz and I. We'll be there. We'll take your questions. We'll break down any weather concerns. I don't think there's much this week, though. That's great. And, of course, go over our top plays. And I think we're even going to have Alex Awesemo Baker join us tonight for the major. So until then, everybody, thank you for coming by the Against the Grain pod, and we will see you on the other side. Good luck this week. Cheers.